Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo and you're watching another live Q&A with you and me. I love answering questions, so keep asking them. I don't care what the question's about because I have many interests in being a geek or a nerd and what? Oh, I did this? Why is there an eye on my hand? I'm glad you didn't ask, unless you did ask, because I just recorded a CPU video where I was drinking this beer. What beer? An awesome beer, but you'll have to tune into that CPU episode. I don't want to issue any spoilers. Had a lot of fun. This is an amazing beer that, of course, will be published in my classic YouTube channel because we've got the Geek Lifestyles channel for long form content like this. And the reason why I was turning away to respond to someone is because my dad's in the room. My dad, world famous for doing a video about Windows 8. How real users will use Windows 8 or whatever the hell I titled it. That happened right here years ago, and then recently, as a CPU episode, we showed him using Windows 10 for the first time. Spoiler alert for that. You can watch it right now, of course, in the Classic channel. The question today is, will you upgrade from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10? Now, I am going to ask you this as well, because I'm just curious to know what most of you are thinking in terms of going, potentially, from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10. That's assuming you're using Windows 8.1, which on certain PCs I am, like the Surface Pro 3, which I had reviewed recently in video, and thank you everybody for participating with that because I answered questions in the review outright. So, yes is the answer to the question. If you were to ask me this, and someone did, I do plan on upgrading from every version of Windows 8 or 8.1 to Windows 10, and I don't know if I still have any Windows 7, or I definitely don't have any Windows XP machines around here. Because, God, who would still use Windows XP? My dad just facepalmed. I have to explain it to people because they can't see you right now. So, hey, by the way, what'd you think of the beer?
It was good.
Damn good beer. Oh. So, and you kind of need beer to get through Windows 8. You know what I mean? Yeah, fist bump. Or not. Just fist emoji. Can you do that for me? Fist bump. So yes, I will be, because I think Windows 10 is exactly what Windows 8 should have been. I think they've made a lot of UX improvements over Windows 8.1. And Windows 8.1 was a solid performer. I always liked the UI of Windows 8, at least the modern experience, or the classic tiles experience. The one thing that I'm hesitant about in terms of using Windows 10 outright is that they have a long way to go in terms of UI. I think they've nailed the UX, but UI is still, as of yet, with the technical previews that they've recently released, very unpolished. It reminds me a lot of how I felt about Vista, not because of performance issues outright, just the general feel. It feels like Microsoft didn't just mash a whole bunch of versions of Windows together, which was good because, it brought, usability across all fronts, into one operating system. It's that it looks that way too. It looks like they slapped 2 or 3 operating systems together to give you one. And that is a problem if the UI is not cohesive, if it doesn't help tell that story or make it feel like it's a polished operating system. So they may have fixed the UX. In fact, today, I don't know if you caught this, I think it was Joe Belfiore or Microsoft or one of the Microsoft Twitter accounts. They tweeted out like since this weekend is Valentine's Day, like how you give people like candy boxes. They had like a candy box of, a heart shaped box. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Candy tins or whatever. Instead of chocolates, they had screenshots of Windows with the start screen on it. It said, "Oh, happy Valentine's Day. We love you. We're bringing back the start screen," which. Great, it's nice that they capitulated and basically said that everybody who was saying that Windows 8 was going to be a disaster, commercial disaster, which it generally was. And hey, if you love Windows 8 and still love it and will love it forever, this isn't a personal attack. I don't care. I don't care what you use. I really genuinely do not care what you love. I'm interested in knowing your perspective, but ultimately, I mean, if you like it or you dislike it, doesn't hurt me. It ain't my life. It's your life, okay? So I just want to get that out there. I don't care. This is nothing personal. So, did that make sense? I care about, their decision processes. I just don't care about their personal choices, because I don't project my personal choices onto you. I sit here and say, this is an amazing beer, and if you don't like it, you suck. Who would do that? Especially about beer. I mean, God. But you know what? No matter which topic you cover, inevitably there are people out there who want the world to revolve around them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I am not one of those guys. I say enjoy whatever beer you want to enjoy. Because I ain't drinking it. I'm drinking this. Obviously, because I'm supposed to be talking about Windows 8.1 to Windows 10, which apparently some people are very interested in. Yes is my answer, but I would attenuate that excitement slightly with the hope that Microsoft is going to put fit and finish. And I would say they're 25% of the way there. From what I saw in the technical preview, I'm not talking about UX, user experience, separate from UI. Now, if you blend them both together, you've got an amazing experience. All together. As a complete package. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so is the case when it comes to UX and UI, especially when you're talking about one particular device. That was part of the problem with the Frankenstein monsterishness of Windows 8 or 8.1. Bifurcating the user experience proved to be the Achilles heel. And, I'm glad that Microsoft turned the UX around. 75% to go. Microsoft, you can do this. I believe in you. I trust you can do this. You've got amazing engineers. If you can't, and here's the thing, if Microsoft cannot nail the full-on Windows 10 experience, that would be the merger of the classic desktop and the more modern Tiles experience. Then if they can't do it, I think they can, but if they can't, then it would be likely that the only version of Windows I would want to use would be the one with a modern experience, because they've said, and Joe Belfiore tweeted this outright, really. He tweeted it outright himself. He said, Windows PCs or PCs that have a certain size screen, I think it was like 8 inches or smaller or something like that, would only be able to run that tiled interface. Great, because it's a single interface. It's a singular interface, a singular user experience. And I think that would be a smart move. Everybody else, if you had a screen larger than 10 inches, or 8 inches, I think is what the mark was, then you'd be able to get to the classic desktop as well as the new experience. But to me, I'd honestly just rather deal with one experience. And if Microsoft can't polish the UI, that's the only thing, honestly. I mean, I see, they're going to fix bugs and it's going to improve over time. No doubt about it. And I think they can do it, but I'm just a little nervous because I expected they'd be able to do that with Windows Vista, and they didn't. Windows Vista was an amalgamation of user interfaces from. I felt like it. I felt like I saw something from Windows 95, 98, and TE 2000, XP, and then Vista. So I felt that Vista was just a mishmash of a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of fonts and a whole bunch of interfaces just piled into one. And the way that Microsoft executed on that just really kind of, it made my skin crawl. So Microsoft can deliver a good UI, but I think they still have a ways to go. They're in technical preview, not passing final judgment, but I will absolutely be upgrading from Windows 8.1 to 10. But if I can only upgrade those, if I have a choice to upgrade those machines, I would just choose a singular experience if Microsoft can't clean up the experience of where it is today with the technical preview. Now, if you don't see any problems with it, great. It's kind of like, it's as subjective as beer. I can't say that you're going to like this beer. I think you would, because it's an amazing beer that I just talked about. Well, not in this video, in the other video I just recorded. But, what's good for you may not be good for somebody else. But what I'm telling you is that even if you don't see these problems, they still exist for someone who sees a certain level of detail in user interfaces. And I was slagged even for talking. I'm going to talk about Apple. I was slagged for telling people about the major inconsistencies and problems with iOS 7 and iOS 8. So I got nothing. I don't care. I want them to do it better. To the point where there's now a rumor that, and I gotta underline that, rumor that iOS 9 is pretty much just going to be a bug fix, a massive cleanup and a bug fix, which was long overdue for not just performance reasons, but also from user experience reasons. So even if you don't see those shortcomings in the mishmash of a whole bunch of crap thrown together into one OS, other people do. And here's the thing, you're going to benefit from it either way. If I'm pushing for a better product, how do you lose? How do you lose? If you get a better product, how do you lose? It's like when I complained about, I did complain about the performance of Google Maps on iOS. I couldn't understand how Google Maps, and I think this even was the case for Android too, because I experienced the same problem. So Google Maps, great app, perfect data, or okay, not perfect data, but it's a great mapping application. I think we can agree on that. But Google Maps had a problem on the iOS app specifically where it would be dropping frames. And I'm like, I don't understand this. I'm running the latest gen iPhone here and it's dropping frames like left and right. I'm like, how can they not fix this? This is obviously a coding problem. So then I got a tweet back because I was complaining about it. They said, well, they came back to me and said, one of the engineers very kindly, nicely said, well, we throttled the frame rate to 15 frames per second. So the OS and the hardware is capable of pushing 60 frames per second smoothly, but they were throttling it to 15 frames a second because it had better performance. I'm sorry, not better performance outright visually, but in terms of battery life. So I was like, oh my God, you're sacrificing frame rate? I'll get a battery charger, man. I mean, give me frame rate or give me death. That I'm not saying that outright, that I want death if I don't get frame rate. But yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. I think even especially if you're a gamer, then you want a higher frame rate. It's more responsive. So by me saying and coming out and saying, why did you throttle this to 15 frames per second? The very next, very minor update wasn't even mentioned in the release notes, the change log. They took that restriction off. And now Google Maps on iOS flies along at 60 frames per second. So if I had not taken the step forward, could be a coincidence. Maybe they decided at the same time. But I believe, because it's awfully more than coincidence to me, that if I had not said something about that 15 frames per second limitation, you'd likely still have 15 frames per second on Google Maps on iOS. So take that to heart. I'm only saying these things because I'm looking and I'm pushing for a better product from every single company out there. You know why? Because I know they can do it. I believe in them and I love their products. I love what they're doing. I don't care what the company is. I want more companies doing more awesome things for you and me. And if you don't perceive those shortcomings, again, when other people point them out, you get a better product. So just keep that in mind. Wow. Apple, Google, Microsoft. I think I made every fanboy happy. I'm a fanboy of awesome things, especially awesome beers. Oh. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to ask questions and subscribing and liking this video. At this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices, whatever they're running.